Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SchuZ Show. Hope you guys are having a phenomenal Tuesday. And if you guys are tuning in on Wednesday, hopefully you guys are off to a phenomenal Wednesday as well. But with that being said, I'm going to make sure we got audio going. We're good to go. So with that being said, though, we've got a few things to get into on tonight's show. Obviously, some boxing news, and we'll go along those lines. But outside of that, though, if you guys have any comments or topics for me to address on today's show, as always, leave your thoughts in the chat. I'll make sure to address those as I go through the duration of the show. Your comments will also pop up on the screen, so we can get into those at that point in time as well. Also, if you're tuning in on YouTube, make sure to smash that thumbs up. I definitely appreciate that. It always helps out with the show as well. So let's get right to it, though. We got some stuff to get into boxing related. And I said that this week is going to be a lot of talks about Vergil Ortiz, Boots Ennis, those type of things on this week's show. And so I'm going to get right into it now. I praised Vergil Ortiz and his performance that he had this past weekend. Nothing to take away from that. He was phenomenal. But here's the situation. I'm going to give you guys the details first, and then we'll head into the rest of the show. So Vergil Ortiz's manager is now suggesting that Vergil Ortiz versus Errol Spence Jr. could be in line instead of the Boots Ennis super fight. Here's what he said. I think Ortiz versus Spence at Cowboy Stadium, biggest all-Texas matchup in history, and Charlo versus Boots as co-main event, and the winners fight each other just might be fire. Makes sense. Charlo and Boots both turned Ortiz down. All right, then Vergil Ortiz said this after the fight. He said he wants Errol Spence next in Dallas at at&t Stadium. If I had to pick, I'm going to be honest, it would be Spence. That's my dream fight. I don't care what anyone says. Then on top of that, here's other news. Roy Jones now has officially announced that he's going to be on his way to Dallas to link up with Errol Spence ahead of a possible return for him. On top of that, we're not done yet. Vergil Ortiz's manager also came out on Instagram and said this in the comment section. He said the contract to fight Boots Ennis must be $10 million minimum or it won't get looked at. All right. I've got a lot to unpack. I'm just going to keep it real and be bluntly honest with you guys in this statement. What in the world? What in the world? Listen, from everything we're currently seeing, the managers and everybody involved with Vergil Ortiz, it is making it look like Vergil Ortiz Jr. is going to be ducking Jaron Boots Ennis. Now, I don't know if that's Vergil Ortiz's decision or if that's the team around him, but what it looks like on paper is that we have a mega fight between Jaron Boots Ennis versus Vergil Ortiz, which I believe everybody in the boxing world knows is the fight to make and one of the best fights in all boxing to make. But yet, all these reports coming out post-fight now seem to hint that we're not going to get Boots Ennis versus Vergil Ortiz. And Boots Ennis and Eddie Hearn are all on board with making this fight happen. So then the question becomes, who's not on board? And from what we're reading about right now, it's Vergil Ortiz's team. The fact that they would even potentially throw out the idea that Boots Ennis should be the co-main event to Vergil Ortiz is absolutely ridiculous. They want to claim this fact that, listen, Boots Ennis ducked Vergil Ortiz essentially and turned down fights before. You mean you're talking about when Vergil Ortiz could no longer fight at 147, had to move to 154, and Boots Ennis still had jobs to do at 147? Yeah, that's a ridiculous claim to make right there. The fight is ready to be made right now today. And you want to throw in on top of that you need $10 million to even look at the offer? Who do you think Vergil Ortiz is? Listen, I love Vergil Ortiz. He's a great fighter. But let's be honest right now. If Vergil Ortiz and Boots Ennis fight, and we're going to go by what actually should happen, Vergil Ortiz is in no way, shape, or form the A side in this fight. Boots Ennis is the bigger name than Vergil Ortiz. Boots Ennis has accomplished more in his career than Vergil Ortiz. And on top of that, in terms of other options for these two fighters to fight, Boots Ennis is in a far greater situation. Because if Vergil Ortiz fight does not happen next for Boots Ennis has on the table right now, he will be the mandatory to fight the winner of Xander Zayas versus Abbas Barao, meaning that Boots Ennis would likely become a world champion at 154 now and be a unified champion. He also has the winner of Josh Kelly, Bakhar Murzavaliev due to the Eddie Hearn connection. And then on top of that, let me just throw this out there as well. Potentially, if Boots Ennis really wants to, he could go have a mega fight, possibly one of the biggest fights to make it 154, with Conor Benn, once again due to the Eddie Hearn connection. For Vergil Ortiz, we're talking about Errol Spence, a man who has not fought at 154 yet. He's fought at 147, obviously an all-time great, a great fighter, but Errol Spence has not fought since he was beat down by Terrence Bud Crawford. That's really your only option. There's rumors of a Sebastian Fundora fight, but what are we looking at right now? If these two guys were to fight, Boots Ennis should be the A side. Now, if the fight happens and it's a 50-50 split, I think that's the way it should go. I think whatever it takes to make this fight happen, make it happen. But the way that Vergil Ortiz's team is talking right now, with all these bogus excuses, it is making Vergil Ortiz look like he is ducking Jaron Boots Ennis. And once again, I don't know if this is drawn or if this is Vergil Ortiz's decision. I don't know what his input is in this. But what I do know is that from all accounts that we're reading about right now, it appears on paper that Vergil Ortiz is going to duck the mega fight with Jaron Ennis. And all that I can say to that is that would be an absolute shame. Because majority of people, and I might even say everyone in boxing, knows that the best fight to make at 154, and probably the biggest fight at 154, is Jaron Ennis, Vergil Ortiz. That's the fight we all want to see. And so if you're going to try to deny that in any way, shape, or form by acting like Vergil Ortiz is some legendary, highly accomplished fighter, and just to throw it out there, Vergil Ortiz has never been a world champion. But if they really want to go act like Vergil Ortiz is this guy and he deserves all these flowers, act like he's Canelo Alvarez or something, then they probably need a reality check because he's not. And I think most people will look at the facts and realize that Jaron Ennis is actually in a far better position and a bigger name than Vergil Ortiz. It is what it is. So hopefully Vergil Ortiz's team, his manager, promoters, everybody can get a reality check, look at what the facts are, and make the fight with Boots Ennis happen. It has to happen next. Stop trying to duck Jaron Ennis. Make the fight happen. You're not getting a better, bigger fight than the one with Jaron Ennis. So pick up the phone, make the fight happen, and sign the contract. Stop messing around for Vergil Ortiz and his team because it's ridiculous at this point in time. All right. Other interesting news. Now, this came out over the weekend, and we're all looking for Jake Paul's situation. He has this big exhibition fight lined up, supposed to be on Netflix, has a great undercard, and I don't know if that's going to change or what's going to happen there, but it's now going to happen in December. So what do we do now? Well, Jake Paul's looking and searching for all different kinds of opponents. Here's an interesting name that came up. Jake Paul has had preliminary conversations with Alex Pereira's team about a boxing match. Here's his direct quote. His team is down to do the fight. I think the only thing preventing it is the UFC, and if these guys can get out of their contracts to fight me, it would be a massive fight at some point, and I know he's down to make it happen. Listen, I don't believe that Jake Paul versus Alex Pereira is a fight that will happen anytime soon. It's not going to happen on the December day, but let me just throw it out there. I do believe that Alex Pereira Jake Paul would be a mega fight to have happen. Alex Pereira is likely going to line himself up to fight Jon Jones at the White House. I believe that's what's going to happen. That's what all points kind of look at right now, especially with the Tom Aspinall situation. Eventually, though, Alex Pereira is going to retire from the UFC and get out of that contract. When that day does come, a possible fight between Jake Paul and Alex Pereira would be huge. Now, I get it. A lot of people are going to look at this and say it's another type of Jake Paul fight. Obviously, we all know Jake Paul is not a legitimate boxer. He's not going to go out there and fight for world championships, or at least hopefully not, but he's not going to be in that situation. I'm looking at this from a business standpoint. And I've always been somebody that says, listen, anything that get more eyes on the sport of boxing is good for the sport. I know people want to blast Jake Paul for the way he handles business. I know people aren't always big fans of that. My take has always been this. If it can help grow the sport of boxing because of the main event, the card being on Netflix, and also having a good undercard, that's good for the sport of boxing. Whether you like it or not, that's just a fact in my eyes. And when you talk about getting the audience of the UFC back into boxing for this fight, one of the biggest names, possibly the biggest name in all the UFC right now, Alex Pereira, fighting Jake Paul in the ring, I think that would do wonders for both guys' careers. It would be a massive payday, and it would be a huge fight that would do great things for the sport of boxing and the health of it. So if I'm going to be honest with you, I actually would be in favor of Jake Paul and Alex Pereira making this fight. I think it's a fight to have happen. I don't think it will happen within the next calendar year, but eventually, whether that be late 2026 or 2027, I would like to see this fight happen because I think it would do good things for boxing. Other boxing news that has now come out recently is this. Subriel Matias, Dalton Smith will be live on, guess what it is? Pay-per-view. Of course it is. The January 10th, Subriel Matias, Dalton Smith, WBC super lightweight title fight will be a Fresh Productions promoted pay-per-view event available to watch on payperview.com and major cable providers from the Barclays Center in New York. I've announced like 4 or 5 pay-per-view events, and I'm going to say the same thing because I'm not going to go out and repeat my whole rant about pay-per-views. What are we doing? How many times are we going to keep hurting and kicking and shooting ourselves in the foot with this boxing sport and pay-per-views? It's ridiculous. So yes, Matias, Dalton Smith, fine fight. You're going to have to pay money to watch it again unless you want to go out there and use those fire sticks, if you know what I'm talking about. So that's going to be a pay-per-view. Other boxing news, Christian Mbilli and Jaime Munguia are in talks for a super middleweight clash in the first quarter of 2026. Now that's a fight I want to see. Christian Mbilli, Lester Martinez gave us one of the best fights of 2025. Absolutely phenomenal showdown between those two guys on that card with the Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Bud Crawford undercard. Absolutely phenomenal. Now we're in a position where I know people want to see the rematch, myself included. It appears it's not going to happen. Jaime Munguia, who obviously has had quite the calendar year, got his upset or saw guys revenge against Bruno SURACE. Then he obviously gets the PED positives. Now he's obviously had those dropped from his name. He's good to go again. Think about whatever you want. I'm just saying the facts. Jaime Munguia now is available to fight again. If I'm going to be honest with you, though, this is a fight where I think Mbilli is going to have a good name on his resume. Real good name. What I've seen from Jaime Munguia is not good. He got knocked out by Bruno SURACE 1 year ago almost. And then we go to the rematch and he was fine. Didn't dominate the fight. I mean, he won it, but it was not a good revenge, if you know what I'm saying right there. And then you have the PED test. Whether it's accurate or not, he was on PEDs in the Bruno SURACE fight. Some way, shape, or form, that's what happened. Just keeping the facts. And he didn't look that good. He didn't get the KO. It just did not look like a good performance in that fight. And now he's going to go up there and fight who you could make a debate, excluding Canelo Alvarez, Bud Crawford, is the best man at 168 in Christian Mbilli. I think Mbilli will go out there, put on an absolute show, probably KO Jaime Munguia. I don't think it's going to be competitive, but it will be a good name for Mbilli's record and resume. But still, I'm all for this fight. Obviously, I'd prefer Martinez to get the rematch there, but I'm all for this fight happening. Claressa Shields, who I just announced had that new record contract come out a couple of days ago, is already set to face Franchon Crews-Dezurn in a huge grudge match fight. Obviously, it's a fine fight to make. Claressa Shields is not going to lose against anybody in her weight class or near her weight class, and quite frankly, I don't think she's going to lose to anybody in boxing right now, at least women's boxing. But that's the fight in line now. Ryan Garcia and Fanmio have until July 3rd, 2026 to settle their lawsuit over a failed bout with Vergil Ortiz. If a settlement is not reached, jury trial begins September 21st, 2026. All right, let's rewind about a year ago. Remember, we're right around December time, and Ryan Garcia was supposed to have a fight, an exhibition fight, in the midst of a suspension. Obviously, if you forgot, Ryan Garcia was suspended 1 year from Devin Haney situation. I was all for the exhibition fight happening. It made sense. Golden Boy got involved, and the injury and stuff happened, whatever happened there, and all of a sudden this fight crumbled apart. I think that going back in time, I think that would have been huge for Ryan Garcia to get the opportunity. I always said this. If you're going to take a year outside of the ring, you probably need to do some form of exhibition or go do a tune-up fight before you get back into a serious situation. We saw the effects. Ryan Garcia looked horrible in the Times Square card against Rolly Romero, but it is what it is. So Ryan Garcia probably should have made that fight happen, but he didn't. And now there's a big lawsuit going on. He's going to have to settle this by July 3rd, 2026. And we'll see what happens. So that's now in store for Ryan Garcia. Is now involved in more legal situations. And I'm sure Golden Boy might have to be involved in that in some way, shape, or form as well. Last thing before I wrap tonight's show. Now, as always, though, if you guys have any comments or topics, leave in the chat. And I'll make sure to address those. And your comments will also come up on the screen. And also, hit that like button if you're tuning in on YouTube. That helps with the show. I really appreciate that. So let's get right to it then. Speaking of super middleweight fighters right now, another big fight's now in the works. IGLESIAS and BRUNO SURACE, the only boxer opposite KO Jaime Munguia, who I just talked about moments ago, they're now in negotiations for a fight. I like this one. IGLESIAS is a man who I think has a legitimate shot at being a world champion in the future. I think he's phenomenal. And BRUNO SURACE, a man that had a miracle KO against Jaime Munguia and has made so much money off of that KO, obviously getting the rematch in Riyadh season, now possibly getting to fight IGLESIAS, which is huge news for himself. He's now in a great position to go out there and fight IGLESIAS and BRUNO SURACE. So this is a fight where I think IGLESIAS will win that. I don't think SURACE is all that. I think he had a miracle KO against Jaime Munguia. I think he held his own in the rematch against Munguia, but IGLESIAS should have his way with him in this fight. I like the idea of this, though. Good opportunity for IGLESIAS as he continues to build himself up. And so that's what we now have in store. IGLESIAS, BRUNO SURACE, another super middleweight fight now in the works. With that being said, I don't see any more comments in the chat, so that'll be wrapping up tonight's show with that. I will be back live in just a little bit, actually. It's going to be about 11 or so hours, 12 hours from now. I have a very special guest who I will be announcing in the morning. You guys are not going to want to miss that interview and show as well. So I'll be back live 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. I'll see you guys then. I appreciate you guys all for tuning in once again. If you guys are tuning in on YouTube, hit the like button. I definitely appreciate that. Appreciate you guys all for tuning in as well. Have a great rest of you guys' night or start of your day or rest of your day. May God bless you guys all. And I'll see you guys back live tomorrow night or tomorrow morning. SchuZ out and God bless you guys.